Viewers to episode 2 of this podcast. My name is Thea, and my topic is about pathological helplessness. Basically, pathological helplessness is two separate terms. Pathological comes from the word of the study of pathology. Basically, what that is the study of the human effect of disease or injury. And helplessness is, as we all know, no need of help through any kind of cause. And basically, through pathology, a lot of women go through a lot of traumas, which cause them to be very traumatic during any kind of event, being near any kind of predator, any kind of danger. And that where the helplessness comes in, the part of where women are basically put into different scenarios where they can't help themselves due to how we interpret them as weak through physical traits, mental traits, whatever the case may be. And I feel like this issue has come from historical events from back in time, and through time things have gotten better. Women were able to get their rights in different scenarios. However, it's not at the place where it's perfect. And as we all know, there's no such thing as a perfect situation. But we could help it by protecting these women. And as a Muslim, we really support the superiority of women, the protection of women. And as a Muslim myself, I took consideration of this topic due to having a healthy and loving mother, and also a sister which I want to protect. And so I want to give different scenarios and where we could help this issue. And there's a whole surah, which is basically a page in the Quran, which talks about women in general. And a quote that I want to bring up is basically as it says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم الرجال قوم على النساء بما فضل الله يعظمهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أموالهم. Basically, men and women, men are the protectors and the maintainers of women because Allah has made them one of them to excel to the other. And basically, I feel like it's a huge issue because a lot of these women are just very helpless when it comes to scenarios of protecting themselves, even though they have defensive weapons. But if you're so traumatic during that moment, sometimes your mentality, you just paralyze yourself where you can't help yourself as much. And us males, we were put into a situation due to historical events where it makes us physically more superior, and we can help ourselves during these situations. But as a woman, through history, through genes, and through the pathological help of each other, they don't really have what us males have. And so that's basically what my topic's about. And further on.
All right. Well, all I can really say is not. Well, if we're going based on the topic, like protecting women, like you said, or females in this case, I have this sense of view where it's like a prime example, the closest woman or the most important woman you're gonna have in your life for anybody's case is gonna be your mother, because she gives you birth, honestly. And how do I see it? I've known it from experience because past friend groups that I've been with, they're really toxic, hectic, and sometimes we would go hang out at their parents' house, and they would be so rude, or mistreat them in front of everyone to show their dominance, I guess. But then in the back of my mind, I'm I can't hang out with these people because it's it's not how you're meant to treat someone, honestly.
I mean, I think, well, as a woman, I get what you mean by the idea that there is a moment when you feel aggressed or assault that you almost close yourself off because you just as a way to shut down and protect yourself in a mental state. I've luckily enough never had an experience like that, but I've had experiences where kind of around high school I've just realized how much I grew up in a very female household. I have an older sister, and my mother is a very loud-spoken woman, and therefore she was the prime figure, and my father, he was just a cool dad, So we were always in a very feminine household. My grandmother, she does martial arts and things like that, and she always I was always brought up with the fact that women, you must fight. if you are in a bad situation, you must fight. And I always like thought of that too. I always wrestled with my sister and things like that. I never thought of myself as like I knew I wasn't strong, but I never thought of myself as physically like weak to the point that my gender will come into case on whether I could defend myself until I was in high school. There's a friend of mine, not so much of a friend anymore. He just kept picking me up, and at first I was just like, okay, who cares and things like that. But after a while, I wasn't cool with it, and he was a lot bigger than me and things like that. And after a while, like he just had me like swung over his shoulder and things like that, and I was just like, at this point, I was like, okay, put me down now. I'm tired of this and things like that. And, you know, he was thinking it was a joke, so he just wouldn't stop. And at that point, I was starting to, like, actually get aggressive. I started hitting his back, scratching him and things like that, but it had no effect on him at all. And he was, like, on the wrestling team and shit like that. And at that point, like, that was the one moment where I actually realized that no matter what I did, I couldn't get out of that situation. Mm-hmm. And that was something that hit me a little bit hard, like, back in the day, and made me completely, like, kind of miserable with myself through the fact that I couldn't help myself in that situation, even though I always thought that, like, I took those self-defense classes and things like that when I was younger.
Yeah, basically that's a big part of what my situation is. My situation is not generally protecting the woman, as that's part of it, but it's also how over time many of these big spoken men have taken women as very weak. And throughout labor forces, back in the time, like, women would just stay at home or be obedient or whatever the case may be. And over time, that's how the body improves. And basically, men going to war, going to different labor forces, and men are evolving, physically, compared to where the women were always staying at home. And that evolves over time. And, things have gotten better. Women could work in the labor force now. Women have their rights. However, in terms of actually protecting them, it's not there yet. And that all comes from historical events. You can't perfect it because history is just bound into our souls. And some people are just think different to other people and not as open-minded as others. And that's how historical events work. But my issue is teaching these helplessness and these different terms to help people understand that, to support what a female may be going through historical events, and how basically our ancestor has shaped the world now.
So like I wouldn't even call these guys men. I would just call them boys, because they never grow up. They would never grow up mentally. I could talk from like personal experience. My father was like an abusive piece of crap. He like really was really horrible human being towards my mom. He was like, and my mom was a really weak person. She couldn't really do anything. So that's just like, that's your wife. How you gonna act towards your wife like that? And then I imagine, what if it was like a stranger? How you, like, if you can do this to his wife, or about a stranger? And then how can women protect themselves? And like, in cases scenarios where they taught you, like when they teach you stuff at school, they always, or like your parents when they teach you, they go like, shout fire, because you will bring people's attention more when you shout fire than when you shout help, especially like when a woman shout fire, and then they will come help you. But then when you shout help, no one cares, no one bothers, they just go away. And it's really like, I really like that you brought this topic in, because it's like a really huge issue. It's like it's today, it will be in the future, it's an ongoing issue. It will never stop. And like, good job.
Thank you.
I mean, if I can bring this up, there is like a social, like when it comes to aggression, there is a sociological like phenomenon that happens, that there are two kinds of aggression. There's the aggression that is almost one that depends on what the audience sees, so that's like MMA fighting and things like that. And the fact is that you will always almost, if you feel more dominant, or the audience sees you as more dominant, then you will probably come out better on this fight. However, there's a second kind of aggression, and that is just the stronger opposing onto the weaker. And the thing is that aggression will always make you mentally stronger and ready to, more ready to fight, because nobody actually enjoys aggression. Well, not enjoys, but everybody's scared of aggression and of a fight. But if you feel dominant enough, then you will automatically be more willing and more likely to fight. So I feel like looking at today, I mean, we have all this technology and things like that. We feel like physicality of a human being does not have to determine their future. But however, when it comes to a woman, we're sometimes reminded of that because we are aggressed on for our physical weakness, almost. And so I'm like wondering, how would that be a situation that can be fixed in the future?
Well, this topic is not only just because of physical scenarios, but also mental scenarios as well. I talk about pre-traumatic traumas. Basically, these are traumas where you go through them, and then later on in life, whenever more traumas come in, usually that event usually upscales into your mind. So, say basically, in terms of like if a woman gets hit in some kind of scenario, if she gets hit again, she's not gonna do anything because she remembers that old time. And that's a big thing. It's not only physical, but it's mental too. I know a lot of women which bring self-defensive weapons and never use them because they don't know how to use them, and through traumatic events, they have a hard time in using them. They feel like even if they use them, there's no chance. It's going to even get worse, and it's all in the mental state as well. It's not just physically, and to help that, it's more of not just working on the woman, but working on the people around that woman as well.
Wouldn't you say it's like a way to like fix it? Probably would be like the way they carry themselves, or like personal motives in this case. Like a person that doesn't really care how they're treated, like in Skylar's example, like let's say if she didn't care how she was treated or something like that, then the guy would just keep on going what he was doing. But in other cases, like if it's like a woman that carries herself and knows what to do, like majority of the time it won't happen.
But in that sense, it's a little bit annoying that you always have to carry yourself in a way that like that you have to be on the defensive. I mean, on one side, like my mother, for example, she was really tall. She always has been, and she has a lot of stories where she'd be in bad situations and her just yelling at the person really loudly and like standing up straight and things like that would get rid of that person, because most of the time she was taller than that person and she could almost get them away in that sense. But then, I mean, that goes for anybody who is shorter. There's a lot of women just like 5 foot or maybe a little bit higher or even lower. Like, we can't just forget about these women. It's really hard for them to like make themselves stand tall even when they try to so much.
The thing like you brought up from mentally, I think that's like the most important thing. Like women need to know this is not right, because it happens once, okay, you forgive, twice, 3 times, 4 times. How many times can you really forgive, and how much longer can you really go on? Okay, let's say you have kids with a person, but your kids are also witnessing that can also impact the future of their kids. Because if it's a guy, they see their father, oh, that's how he treats my mom, so I can do the same thing to my wife. Or like for the girl, oh, that's how my mom gets treated, so she's gonna expect that in the future and not gonna react. So
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a complicated situation, but it is definitely about like the mentality. I think I still have this strong mentality to not like, not like be content with settling with stuff. But I think continuing with that mentality, because it's hard to continue with that mentality when it's something that you have to deal with for some girls day to day on a like a daily basis.
Yeah, a lot of them go through household issues, and that's where pre-traumatic distress comes in. As you said, you were very fortunate enough to be around a more feminine household, which helped you, but some other women just don't get that. So that's why it usually causes some mindset to just be helpless.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's it.
That's it.
I mean, anything else you want to say? Pretty much.
That's all for now. But thank you everybody for watching episode 2, and have a good one.